right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. This is the Millstone Report. I'm your host, Paul Harrell. Thank you for being with us. As always, we can't do the show without you every single day. We really do appreciate it. We got a great show for you, a jam-packed show, actually. Don't know if we're going to have enough time. I want to remind everybody, this portion of the Millstone Report brought to you by Red Vive Health and the healing power of red light. I want all of you to go to redvivehealth.org/Paul and experience it. Or you can call. We've now got the 800 number, 866-726-8483. You can also call. When you do, mention my name, Paul, and get a discount off the red light panel. Some people want to call. Some people don't want to order online. That's still very much a thing, so we wanted to go ahead and make that addition. We'll tell you more about the healing power of red light here in just a moment. The word of the day, my word of the day, is diplomacy. Is diplomacy preferable if the alternative is war? If the alternative means human beings are going to die, if the alternative means, specifically, if we're talking about America First, potentially American soldiers dying once again in the Middle East, which has really just been, and I've said this a long time, this is why so many people are fatigued by the never-ending wars, the endless wars, particularly if you're my age. I technically am a millennial. I'm 40 years old, although I don't like the label millennial. I remember, dial-up internet. I remember analog technology. There's a little subset of millennials that I think need to get a little bit of more attention. Those of us that saw the digital age come to fruition and remember things like Walkmans, which I actually owned. But anyway, I digress. War in the Middle East has essentially been a staple. It's been a given. It's been baked into U.S. foreign policy my entire life for 40 years. Think about that. And I got to tell you, I've talked to so many people my age, maybe a little older, also the Gen Xers. We're sick of it. There's a monumental shift. And not only do you have, millennials and Gen Xers taking control of our government, being given appointments in some of the highest offices in the land, thanks to President Donald Trump, you have millions of Americans, in my opinion, in that demographic, in that age group, that are just, we're sick to death of the endless wars. We're sick to death of the America Last policies. And we want America to be good, America to be prosperous, America to be morally good, not wicked, for the people that actually live here. And, getting involved and being a warmonger and all the stuff, it's just the foreign policy of the neocons is laid bare. It is a rotten tree. It produces, no fruit, not only for the American people, but also for other people across the world. So when Donald Trump has embarked on this Middle East peace, this Middle East, trip where he is talking about peace, he's slamming the neocons, he's slamming the nation builders. This is one of the main reasons that I voted for Donald Trump, because I didn't want World War III. I didn't want more Americans dying in the Middle East. And that's one of the reasons, I voted for that concept, holding my breath, knowing that, hey, we could go to war with Iran tomorrow. You never know. But I thought, obviously, Donald Trump was the best choice in terms of, the probability of that not happening. And there are neocons, one of them, talk radio host Mark Levin, who has just been over the weekend, as well as recently, specifically after Donald Trump's incredible speech, has just been absolutely counter-signaling, really crashing out, but counter-signaling Donald Trump every step of the way. And it's been, quite frankly, very entertaining to watch. Before we get to Trump's speech, slamming the neocons, slamming American foreign policy over the last 40 years, I think it's important that we give you a little update about where President Trump is right now. Right now he is in Qatar. He's inked a big deal. We're going to tell you about that. But a little while ago, news broke while he was on Air Force One, and this might have been, this was this morning when this video was posted, where he met with the new Syrian head of state, let's call him. But he had positive things to say about him, and I want to play that for you first here on the program. So here we go. Here's Donald Trump. This is a tweet from the Vigilant Fox. He writes, Trump just dropped a bombshell after meeting with Syria's new president, says they're likely to join the Abraham Accords. Aboard Air Force One, Trump was asked about his meeting with Syrian President Ahmed al-Sara, and he says that it went great. Let's take a listen.
How did you find the Syrian president?
Great. I think very good. Young, attractive guy, tough guy. You know, strong pass, very strong pass fighter.
Does that worry you?
But he's got a real shot at pulling it together. I spoke with President Erdogan, who I'm very friendly with him. He feels he's got a shot. Very good job. It's a torn up country.
Do you think Syria will join the Abraham Accords?
Yeah, but I think they have to get themselves straightened out. I told him, I hope you're going to join when it's straightened out. He said yes.
Okay, so he says the Syrian president said yes once the country is straightened out. Obviously, it's pretty much a war zone over there. Christians are being slaughtered. That he will join the Abraham Accords. We also have this. Earlier today, President Trump just secured a massive $1.2 trillion economic commitment on his trip to Qatar. I think we have the translation here.
It is my honor to announce the signing of a joint declaration of cooperation between the State of Qatar and the United States of America. Signed on behalf of the State of Qatar by His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, Emir of the State of Qatar, and the Honorable Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America.
All right, so that's them signing what is supposedly $1.2 trillion economic commitment from Qatar, or Qatar, or however you're supposed to say it. This was after yesterday we got the news of a $600 billion investment from the Saudis. Quote, the landmark deal celebrates today will drive innovation and prosperity for generations, bolster American manufacturing and technological leadership, and put America on a path to a new golden age. So this is the question. Eric Daughtery writing, this is what Americans asked for when they voted in November. I certainly didn't want war. I certainly want peace. I certainly don't want the nation builders and the NGOs to continue this same failed foreign policy that just destabilizes everything, while American people back home here domestically just continue to decline. The middle class continues to shrink. I mean, I know those two are not directly related, but it sure feels like it is. I mean, if you look at the amount of money that we spend, the amount of money we give away, and now we have all these countries investing in us. It certainly gives you something to think about. But let's get to the speech yesterday. This was, I think, no. Before we do that, so Jack Posobiec tweets a quote from Trump saying, quote, it's God's job to sit in judgment. It's my job to defend America. Popular account Smash Bales, which I think that's a great follow, by the way. He writes, this is actually an accurate interpretation of Romans chapter 13. Speaking of Romans, Wesley Huff, the biblical textual historian, went on the Flagrant podcast with Andrew Schultz. I watched most of it last night. It was fascinating to watch Wesley Huff command the facts about the Bible, about its inerrancy, its reliability historically. But it was also interesting to really just hear him present the gospel of Jesus Christ and how he saves sinners. We actually have that clip for you, and if we have time later in the program, we're going to play it, because it's incredible that we do have several instances now of mainstream podcasts that are not overtly Christian or spiritual. As a matter of fact, they're the opposite of that many times. People are now becoming more receptive to understand the historical foundations of Christianity, and also the fact that it's true, that Jesus Christ really did walk out of that tomb. He really did defeat death. So here is, this is the speech from President Trump. Vigilant Fox, President Trump is resetting the global order. For the first time in decades, an American president is prioritizing peace and prosperity over endless wars. Now, what's funny about this, I went back and I pulled a bunch of articles from I did a Google search, and I pulled articles about Democrats, peace, war, Iraq. I started the search in the year 2000 and went all the way to 2007, December 31st, 2007. Obama was about to run, for president. And it's amazing how the Democrat Party, at least they used to try to say, I mean, the Uniparty existed back then too, but they were at least trying to pivot and trying to say they were anti-war. Certainly, many of Democrat voters back then were saying we don't want war, we don't want war. And what's funny with this speech, this is another example of how Donald Trump has stolen this issue from the Democrats. They used to be the party of anti-war. They used to be the party for peace, and they blamed the warmongers and the neocons and the Republican Party. But now that's pretty much all gone. And Donald Trump he's like stolen their girlfriend. If issues were girlfriends, if different platforms, different issues in the platforms of the Democrat Party, Donald Trump has successfully stolen the girlfriend of the Democrats, and they are furious about it, if you want to know the truth. Here is Donald Trump. We're going to get a few clips here. The era of endless wars is over. Take a listen to this.
What a great place, but more importantly, what great people. I want to thank His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, for that incredible introduction. He's an incredible man. Known him a long time now. There's nobody like him. Thank you very much. Appreciate it very much, my friend. And it's a tremendous honor to return to this beautiful kingdom and be welcomed back with such extraordinary generosity and warmth. I've never forgotten the exceptional hospitality showed to us by King Solomon, who's just, we talk about a great man. That is a great man. That is a great man, a great family. And that visit took place exactly 8 years ago. The graciousness of the royal family and the Saudi people is really unsurpassed, no matter where you go.
So that's the first clip. The honor that President Trump was given, the respect he was given, people have noted is unlike any American president has ever been treated before. Here's another clip from the speech.
And it's crucial for the wider world to note this great transformation has not come from Western interventionalists or flying people in beautiful planes giving you lectures on how to live and how to govern your own affairs. No, the gleaming marvels of Riyadh and Abu Dhabi were not created by the so-called nation builders, neocons, or liberal nonprofits like those who spent trillions and trillions of dollars failing to develop Kabul, Baghdad, so many other cities. Instead, the birth of a modern Middle East has been brought by the people of the region themselves, the people that are right here, the people that have lived here all their lives, developing your own sovereign countries, pursuing your own unique visions and charting your own destinies in your own way. It's really incredible what you've done. In the end, the so-called nation builders wrecked far more nations than they built, and the interventionists were intervening in complex societies that they did not even understand themselves. They told you how to do it, but they had no idea how to do it themselves. Peace, prosperity, and progress ultimately came not from a radical rejection of your heritage, but rather from embracing your national traditions and embracing that same heritage that you love so dearly.
It's incredible, and this is another opportunity to talk about the nation state, to talk about particular peoples, to talk about what a nation actually is, and how our concept of globalism and the nation state and how it's somehow bad is such a blip on the radar for the thousands of years of human history where people thought about nations and peoples totally different. You know, the biggest mistake of the neocons, aside from the fact that it was all about making money and essentially, bombing countries back to the Stone Age and destabilizing the region, the hubris, the arrogance that I think is just apparent at this point, that these countries are just, because they may not have been as technologically advanced as us, that, dealing with them is much easier than managing a first world economy, and it's just technically it's a step down for us, so we'll be able to manipulate the situation, we'll be able to control the situation, we'll be able to give them democracy when the culture over there wants a strong hand. I mean, it is what it is. We may not agree with it, but those cultures over there obviously prefer a strong authoritarian leadership. And within the strong authoritarian leadership, there are also, hierarchies and traditions in the way, you're supposed to do things. And obviously, much of it's driven by the religion of Islam. Donald Trump is essentially rebuking the foreign policy that's been enacted my entire life. This idea of meddling, this idea of the arrogance involved, the nation builders were trying to do something they had no idea how to do. And he gives Saudi Arabia credit for embracing their heritage as a nation state for achieving what they've achieved. Again, the word of the day is diplomacy. Would you rather have diplomacy or dead Americans in the Middle East? So, it's just incredible. And I can honestly say this is what I voted for. Maybe not exactly, but this is certainly way better than the alternative. I hope. I mean, there's no way to know exactly what the alternative would have been. Then we get to this part of the speech.
Condemn the past. Yet I'm here today not merely to condemn the past chaos of Iran's leaders, but to offer them a new path and a much better path toward a far better and more hopeful future. As I've shown repeatedly, I am willing to end past conflicts and forge new partnerships for a better and more stable world, even if our differences may be very profound, which obviously they are in the case of Iran. I have never believed in having permanent enemies. I am different than a lot of people think. I don't like permanent enemies, but sometimes you need enemies to do the job, and you have to do it right. Enemies get you motivated. In fact, some of the closest friends of the United States of America are nations we fought wars against in generations past, and now they're our friends and our allies. I want to make a deal with Iran. If I can make a deal with Iran, I'll be very happy if we're going to make your region and the world a safer place. But if Iran's leadership rejects this olive branch and continues to attack their neighbors, then we will have no choice but to inflict massive maximum pressure, drive Iranian oil exports to zero like I did before. You know that they were a virtually bankrupt country because of what I did. They had no money for terror, they had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, and take all action required to stop the regime from ever having a nuclear weapon. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon.
So here's the deal. Lindsey Graham is already out counter-signaling Trump. I saw where he tweeted. I don't think I have it pulled up. I don't, actually. I might have bookmarked it. But he's already out counter-signaling President Trump, saying that, the deal that he made with the Houthis, of course, they didn't consult Israel to do it, and apparently the Houthis are still, according to Lindsey Graham, if you want to believe him, are attacking the Houthis, or the Houthis are attacking Israel. And so Lindsey Graham is now saying, once again, that Israel just needs to go and bomb Iran. That's the response. Israel needs to go ahead and start bombing Iran. It's incredible, though, that Donald Trump is once again committing to an attempt at peace with Iran. And again, this is all happening when Zelensky and Putin are supposed to be meeting tomorrow, as a matter of fact, to try to negotiate an end to the Ukraine conflict, the Ukraine war. Now, again, my question that I'm going to continue to hammer is how do you normalize relations with Russia, as Donald Trump and even Secretary Rubio have stated? Not only do they want to normalize relations with Russia, they want financial normalization. How do you do that and go to war with Iran? Again, it seems you're either going to have peace everywhere or you're going to have peace nowhere. That's the way. But I don't know. I don't hear anybody else asking that question. Iran is a proxy of Russia. How do you normalize relations? Russia would obviously, maybe even China too, go to Iran's aid if something actually does happen. Nobody seems to ask this question, but Donald Trump, again, diplomacy, trying to find a diplomatic solution. Aaron McIntyre saying that in the last week, this man has made the left anti-refugee because of the South African situation and pro-giant pharmaceutical corporations, one of the most impressive political operators in American history. It has been a very good week for Trump. But on the issue of diplomacy, let's go back and just listen. I just want you to read a few of these headlines that I pulled. This is an article from NBC News from August 27th of 2008. Headline: Thousands stage anti-war protests at convention. This was back in 2008 when the Democrat National Convention was in Denver, Colorado, or the Denver Coliseum. It says a column of people three blocks long, led by members of the Iraq Veterans Against the War, streamed from the Denver Coliseum on Wednesday in an anti-war protest march to the Pepsi Center. It's just one headline showing that the Democrats used to at least claim that they were anti-war. Here's PBS. Matthew Bell asked the question back in, do I have a date on this? It's sometime in 2008. Is Obama anti-war enough for Democrats? The Huffington Post, the liberal Huffington Post, August 1st, 2008. The peace movement needs a strategy for Afghanistan. Both Obama and McCain are advocating the exact same solution in Afghanistan, yet sending more troops will only mean more violence, and it's also not enough to simply say, troops out now. Again, it was a lot more complicated. In Hillary Clinton, this was a piece from what I could tell that was written on Hillary Clinton's behalf. But anyway, this was they were anti-war. August 9th of 2007, Bush and Democrats clash over Iraq war funding. There were questions over that. And then we have April 9th of 2008, U.S. Democrats, Clinton, Obama skirmish over Iraq. Here's a CNN headline, March 7th, 2003. Pelosi, Democrats missed chance to turn Bush away from war. Urges more diplomacy with Iraq. Here's the Guardian story from November 15th, 2007. Democrats tie Iraq war funding to troop withdrawal. And where is all that now? Donald Trump is now the guy who has completely stolen this idea of diplomacy, and the Democrats used to be the part. Remember Code Pink? The Democrats used to be the party of ending wars, stopping wars, and they are no longer that party. And I think that is one of the reasons why Donald Trump won all 7 battleground states. New political coalitions, as well as the fact that the Democrat Party, for the most part, is completely in lockstep on every issue. They're bound together by their woke sex religion. And the only party in America right now, whether you love the two-party system or hate it, the only party in America right now where there is an actual debate back and forth about different policies and new ideas or old ideas is the Republican Party. It's just a coalition of people that have rejected the woke sex religion, and then we argue amongst ourselves, and of course then you have the uniparty. And this is why Congress is right now doing nothing to codify the Doge cuts. There are senators voting against the Doge cuts, which is absolutely insane, but it goes to show you. By the way, every one of the senators that are voting against these Doge cuts, I saw it said, needs to be investigated. I completely agree at this point. It's absolutely insane what's going on. Here is, so we already covered this. The leader of Qatar has signed a multi-billion-dollar deal with President Trump and the CEO of Boeing. Okay, so this is slightly different. Qatar Airways is now going to buy 150 aircrafts from Boeing, the manufacturer. This is assuming they can get their act together. I'm not so sure. The fact that they're doing this, the fact that they're actually committing to Boeing, that certainly is a sign of faith in America, because right now Boeing is in. Well, they just haven't. Let's just put it mildly. They haven't had the best headlines over the last 24 months. Here is this is the same clip about Donald Trump slamming the nation builders, slamming the deep state, slamming the neocons, trying to get some sort of lasting peace in the Middle East. Again, incredible. A stark shift in foreign policy, in the foreign policy that has basically been baked in for my entire life. Not to say that it's perfect, not to say, but it's certainly a shift. There's no way, I don't see how you can say it's not a shift. Although Mark Levin, believe it or not, Mark Levin is out saying that Donald Trump is really a globalist. He's following, for all the talk of globalism, he actually thinks these big deals are a sign of globalism. I'm not kidding. Mark Levin links to an article at Jewish Insider that claims that Trump is really the next Obama, comparing his Saudi Arabian speech to Obama's Cairo speech back in the day. I kid you not. The counter-signaling is absolutely insane right now. This was Trump back in 2015, 2016 about stopping the endless wars. So flashback to 2015, 2016, Donald Trump's running for president, and he says this.
What are we doing? The migration was caused by Iraq, by Libya, by this. We want to give people freedom? We're not going to have our own freedom pretty soon if we keep doing this. We're not going to have our own freedom. They don't want freedom. It's like I saw somebody, I won't even say because it's embarrassing. We want it where the women over there don't have to wear the you-know-what.
The hijab.
And then I said, oh, well, that makes sense. That's nice. Then I saw women interviewed. They said, we want to wear them. We've worn them for 1,000 years. Why would anybody tell us not to? They want to. What the hell are we getting involved for? In fact, it's easier. You don't have to put up makeup. Look how beautiful everyone looks. Wouldn't it be easier? Wah. Right? Wouldn't that be easy? I'll tell you, if I was a woman, I don't want to. Wah. I'm ready, darling. Let's go. It's true. No, the reason I won't mention the person's name because it was a Republican, you know. But the Democrats feel the same way. They want democracy. Democracy. We can't have it anymore. We have to rebuild our country. We have to do things. Now,
so rebuild our country and stop spending trillions of dollars on Middle Eastern wars that see Americans lose their lives over there. So that was basically, Mel here says today's speech in Saudi Arabia was the closest we've come to where we started. That was one of the reasons a lot of people got on board with Trump the first time he ran. Pretty incredible. He makes a great point. And again, yesterday we talked about the nation state, and we were talking about it in the context of the South Africans and Trump saving these white South Afrikaners. It's a good opportunity to talk about heritage, nation state. When do you own the land or become a heritage American? Do you have to be there 40 years? Do you have to be there 500 years? Obviously, the left thinks that you don't have to be there at all. The left thinks that if you're white, then you never actually owned the land. And they were opposed to the whites coming in. So we talked about the nation state. I think Matt Walsh has another interesting tweet about how, you can live somewhere for 500 years and the left is going to say you're not native. But somebody from Mexico comes in America and they have every right to be here, Pretty ridiculous, if you ask me. Clandestine, at war clandestine. Just look at the optics from Trump's speech today. Ben Salman and the entire crowd give an uproarious standing ovation after Trump promotes peace in the Middle East and new economic partnerships. If Trump continues on this trajectory, the midterms will be a bloodbath. I saw the headline at the Insurrection Show that's also on Ex American News here, and I was watching Derek and Mike talk about this. How there are some Dems starting to signal that the midterms may not go their way. I don't know. We'll see. If not, it's like the first time in a long time that the House isn't going to flip after the presidency flips. But we'll have to wait and see on that, obviously. But here's Mark Levin. So Mark Levin has a show that comes on Sundays on Fox News. Obviously, a lot of boomers still really love Fox News. John Harris says here, don't listen to Levin. So ahead of Donald Trump's historic trip, which I think is going to, at the end of the week, going to be a historic trip. It's already historic. Ahead of Donald Trump's historic trip to the Middle East, to Saudi, to Qatar, Mark Levin decides to counter-signal Donald Trump by telling Americans who we should hate.
The Middle East is filled with terrorists and terrorist regimes. Americans do not like Iran and the regime that runs it. They're terrorists. They keep threatening to destroy us and our friends, the Israelis. They're trying to get nuclear weapons and put them on intercontinental ballistic missiles. We reject it. I speak for tens of millions of red-blooded Americans. I speak for Christians and Jews and others alike.
Well, I'm a Christian, and Mark Levin certainly doesn't speak for me. So I'm not in the massive sum he claims exists. What I will not, you know what's crazy about this, and I posted, it's crazy, and I think we should do this. I posted quite sarcastically to, I don't know if it was a Levin or something, but just it was some story about the Iranian, they've just found new Iranian nuclear sites. Fox News has uncovered it, right? Like we've got satellites that monitor all of this stuff, but we've just found new nuclear sites. They're new nuclear sites, and we found them. And I think it's good to say, wow, it's crazy that Saddam Hussein once again has weapons of mass destruction. Isn't that nuts? I thought we took care of that. I thought we went in there. And they recognized us, and they lauded us as a conquering army coming in there. But it's crazy. Saddam Hussein once again has weapons of mass destruction, because that's the playbook here. Iranian nuclear capability is now the new Saddam Hussein and weapons of mass destruction. And the weapons of mass destruction, depending on who you talk to, didn't exist. I mean, it's crazy. But anyway, he tells us who to hate. This is where it's really weird. I just want people to try to at least analyze this with a critical ear. When somebody is telling you in these absolute black and white terms, while Donald Trump is trying to navigate a very gray situation, as a matter of fact, to prevent World War III, you've got this guy telling us in black and white terms who Americans should hate.
This is the view of the American people. That's number one. Americans hate Hamas. We hate terrorists, butchers, Nazis. We hate men that kill babies, that decapitate babies, that rape women and burn people alive, and attack young teenagers at festivals. We hate them. We despise them. We got real questions about Saudi Arabia and Saudi Arabia's role in 9/11. And the more that comes out, as the FBI just released some information about 6 to 8 months ago, the worse it looks that Saudi Arabia did in fact have a hand in helping Al-Qaeda attack us.
So it is not 2001, and it's not 2002, and it's not 2003, but this is Mark Levin trying to get boomers who watch his show to go back to these events, to go back, and now he's blaming 9/11 on Saudi Arabia, and it's all they got. I mean, this is the only playbook we have to continue wars in the Middle East. Again, this is all happening right before Trump is trying to find a diplomatic solution that doesn't result in more dead people. Anyway, he continues. Anybody ever Google, we were there to document the event, by the way?
And kill over 2,000 of our fellow citizens. That's what we Americans reject and believe. We know who the good guys are. 80% of us support the state of Israel, our holy land for Jews and Christians. And most of us despise the terrorist and the terrorist regimes all of which are one form of dictatorship or another. So that's the foundation. Let's begin there. If only Israel would accept the Palestinian state as a condition of Saudi Arabia joining the Abraham Accords, if that's a condition, then who cares if they join the Abraham Accords? Accept a ceasefire with Qatar-funded Hamas, so Hamas, you see, can rebuild and strike Israel again.
So it's obvious that Mark Levin is counter-signaling Trump, doesn't agree with this, doesn't want diplomacy, and doesn't want peace. Just so we're all clear. Matter of fact, he's taken to Twitter since Donald Trump's fantastic speech where he slams neocons. This morning at 8:12 a.m., he writes, Saudi Arabia played a significant role in the 9/11 slaughter of our people. I didn't hear the Crown Prince even apologize once yesterday for what they did to us. And I know the 9/11 families are reeling from this. So I mean, it's again, this is the only card they have, is to try to put Americans back into this mindset of 2001, 2002, 2003, George W. Bush, the war on terror. Like, that's all they have, which means, in my opinion, that there is probably never been a higher time that Americans need to keep their heads on a swivel for some sort of false flag. Some sort of false flag that can drag Americans back into this mindset fully. Because many, I'm telling you, people my age, people who are 50, people, I mean, I'm 40, but, you know, from the 40 to 50 age, and I know that the Zoomers have had enough, but people my age have come out of this. It's a generational propaganda that's like peace. There's no chance at peace. We have to be nation builders. We have to get in there. We have to send our troops to die. No more is what many people. I'm telling you, what's shocking to me is the people that I'm hearing from, acquaintances. It's women. It's not even the men. It's women who are like, this is ridiculous. Like, our entire lifetime has been about wars in the Middle East. So we've got people that are, you know, the thanks in large part to the internet, the spell in many regards has been broken over this. And all Mark Levin has is to try to, you know, take us back in time and remember essentially when America went to war for, against Muslim nations, and that was, we got to fight them there so we don't have to fight them here. So, and then he talks about Qatar. He says, and Qatar protected the leader of the 9/11 attack from the FBI before he was able. He says, I cannot let bygones be bygones, and those Americans who suffered the consequences of what these monarchies did cannot either. I can't stop thinking about all the innocent people who went to work that day and were on those planes, all the firefighters and police officers who died horrible deaths. As for Iran, if they get a nuclear weapon, that's on our generation, and our country will suffer the horrible consequences. These are terrorists. Larry Schweikart says, hey, Germany machine gunned American POWs. Did Germany apologize? Japan took GIs on the death march. Did Japan apologize? Larry Schweikart says, just stop the stupid spooge. Schweikart's a great follow, by the way, over on X. Here's another one. Here is Mark Levin claiming that Donald Trump is actually being tricked into being a globalist. Now, this, I just think, is so intellectually dishonest. Listen to what he says. He says, isolationism or globalism or both. He says, actually, POTUS's speech included some of the lines used by the Soros-Koch isolationist crowd about neocons and interventionalists. But the irony is that it was given in the context of a globalist outreach effort to make economic and military deals with and between Middle East monarchies, dictatorships, and the biggest of America's globalist internationalist corporatists. You mean like peace? You mean so making economic partnerships in trade deals is globalist now. He's trying to redefine what globalism is and what nationalism is because he doesn't like that Donald Trump is trying to make peace with the Muslim world. It's incredible. He says, we don't know the details, but if they're great deals for we the people, that's wonderful. I truly believe the president is the best at making deals. Nonetheless, this looks like globalism wrapped in isolationist language. I mean, that's mental. That's some of the worst mental gymnastics I've ever seen. So he links to an article from Jewish Insider, headline, Trump blast interventionalists and neocons in Riyadh speech. And the subheadline here is, a conservative foreign policy analyst, which basically means neocon, a neocon foreign policy analyst dubbed Trump's Saudi address similar to Obama's 2009 apology tour in Cairo. So Mark Levin, who I believe is on some council for Donald Trump, I don't know, I can't remember the name, but Levin is actually in the administration in some like loose form, is counter-signaling Trump while he is trying to navigate very difficult gray diplomatic waters, and is linking to articles in the Jewish Insider saying that Trump is actually on an apology tour and is the next Barack Obama. John Harris is right. We should not listen to Mark Levin. And I think less and less people actually are. And that certainly is a good thing. Folks, before we go any further, I want to tell you about Red Vive Health and the great folks at redvivehealth.org/Paul. So you can call the number 866-726-8438 or go to redvivehealth.org/Paul. Do your research and experience the healing power of light for yourself. Now, I have hesitated to tell you this personal testimonial about what red light therapy has done for me. I have the 3-foot panel, and so I sit in front of it. I've been getting the energy benefits from it and everything else. Okay, so here's too much information, and I'm kind of a little embarrassed to admit this. But what I will tell you is, for whatever reason, and this has happened to me one time before, but this winter, with the cold and I guess hot showers and it being so cold, my feet, okay, this is embarrassing. My feet started breaking out in like some sort of eczema. I thought maybe it was, I don't know, I thought maybe it was maybe the shampoo and everything else. And I tried steroid cream, and the steroid cream would kind of help a little bit. But then, I guess the drier the winter got, my feet just broke out and started to crack and, had this eczema. So I thought, well, it'll be fine. Who cares? I don't care about it. When it warms up and it gets to the spring or summer, it'll probably heal. I just figured it was because it was winter. Well, it's spring now, and it's not really that much better. So for the last 2 days, when I do my red light therapy, I've taken 5 minutes, and I kid you not, 5 minutes, to put my foot on a chair and hold it in front of the red light panel. And I am telling you right now, after 2 treatments of 5 minutes, which is, increase the blood flow to my foot, after 2 treatments for 5 minutes, the breakout on my feet are almost entirely gone. Working way better and way faster than any sort of steroid cream ever has. So I know that's too TMI, and nobody wants to know that your podcast host has gross feet. Forgive me, hobbit feet. But this stuff works. The technology is there. The science is there. I want you to go to redvivehealth.org/Paul, do the research yourself, or call 866-726-8483. Mention my name, Paul, if you call the number. They know who I am. We talked to Matt Troy, who sells these things on Monday. He's going to be back on the show Monday. 866-726-8483. Mention my name, Paul, or go to redvivehealth.org/Paul. Either way, you will get the discount as long as you mention my name. Experience the healing power of light today. It is truly, truly incredible, and it's technology that Big Pharma does not want you to know about. Okay, here is more stories that we have to get to today. RFK Jr. is on Capitol Hill, and Democrat Steny Hoyer isn't a fan. No surprise there. They're talking about cuts versus streamlining versus redundancy. The Democrats obviously are freaking out that RFK is making any movements at all or any cuts at all. Take a listen.
Is there an analysis that you can provide to this committee prior to us determining the budget that will show that, in fact, those cuts will not be harmful to those objectives?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there were analysis. The simplest analysis was at the outset, the analysis that we're spending $2 trillion a year that we don't have.
Mr. Musk
At
said he
some
was going to
point,
cut
when you're
$2 trillion.
spending $2 trillion more than you have to make cuts. The other analysis that was more detailed
You cut
is
the
that
children or the Indians that you're so concerned about?
we didn't cut the Indians. We didn't
No, I
cut the
understand
Indian
that.
services.
I'm asking you, you said we have to cut.
I made sure that those services were not cut. I made sure that Head Start was not cut. But the cuts that were done were cuts that were to duplication, to redundancy, to streamlining. We increased our workforce 70% in 4 years, so we were going back to the 2019 levels.
So it continues. We have another clip here. Also, he's talking to more congressional. I think this is a Republican, but this was interesting. Now, this kind of goes back to what we talked about last week with the food. Yes, we know you can't blame Fruit Loops for everything, but our food is toxic and our food is poison, and crunchy moms everywhere agree. Here he is talking about food dye. Take a listen to this.
In my district, which is a rural district, want to work with you on those goals. What can we do to promote this with young children, healthy lunches, all sorts of areas where local communities can partner with you in this effort?
We are about to reissue the dietary guidelines. We're going to do it very quickly. We have until January, but we're going to do it. I think we'll have it done even before August. And we took the Biden guidelines, which were 453 pages long and were clearly written by industry, that are incomprehensible, driven by the same industry capture and those kind of carnal impulses that put Fruit Loops at the top of the food pyramid. And we are changing that. So we're going to have 4-page dietary guidelines that tell people essentially eat whole food, eat the food that's good for you. That's going to drive changes in the school lunch programs. And we're going to need your help to make sure we can get good school lunches to Head Start. I've been touring these Head Start facilities. Everything they eat is in a package, and it is just loaded with sugar and with chemicals. We're poisoning this generation, 800,000 kids, the poorest kids in our country, and we're starting them out with this count against them, with diabetes, pre-diabetes. 38% of our youth now are diabetic or pre-diabetic. That was 0 when I was a kid. Anybody thinks that we did gold standard medicine in this country from these institutions, look at our children. They're the sickest children in the world. Laura, you say that excuse me, Congressman DeLauro, you say that you've worked for 20 years on getting food dye out. Give me credit. I got it out in 100 days.
I'll give you that credit.
All right, so let's work together and do something that we all believe in, which is have healthy kids in our country, for God's sake. We can all do that together. It's not, there's no such thing as Republican children or Democratic children. There's just kids, and we should all be concerned with them.
So that's something that's going to make crunchy moms across the country very, very happy. This is obviously great. I mean, this is another one of the reasons I voted for Donald Trump, because of the Kennedy partner-up and all the stuff he was saying about the food supply being toxic and everything else. Of course, our stories last week we covered with Casey Means and her brother Callie. Again, still need to be vocal about it, just in terms of it's great to get the toxins out of our food. It's great to get the dyes out. It's great to admit that they are making us sick, causing cancer, causing diabetes. But there's another head to the snake, and it's called Big Pharma, and their medicines and their vaccines are they going to be protected? Is Big Pharma throwing Big Food, Big Ag under the bus so that they don't have to make any changes, so that they don't have to admit what they've done to this country and the nation's children? We have to stay vigilant on that point as well. There's no getting around that for sure. Folks, I want to remind you the rest of the program brought to you by Curable Premium Health. Curable CBD, the best CBD you can buy, the cleanest, the purest, the most effective, and we'll tell you more about Curable CBD here in just a moment. Did we have another clip from that? No, but we we do have this one, which is pretty funny. Congressman Debbie Dingell caught asleep. What did they tell? Did they say which hearing this is? She's a Democrat out of Michigan who was caught on camera just totally knocked out, just totally asleep during the hearing. Let's look at that. I mean, she's out of it, man. She's like, I mean, she's snoozing, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe it was look at all the water she's got. Somebody needs to get that lady some liquid IV. I have a distinct feeling that maybe she had one too many last night. I don't know. I could be wrong, but it's just a distinct feeling that maybe she had one too many last night. Tom Tillis, the rhino who destroyed the Ed Martin nomination, is now signaling that he's signaling against Donald Trump's big anti-big pharma price gouging executive order earlier in the week.
Okay with, I'd like to follow your lead. If not, then I'm likely to convene it myself so that I can get everybody in the room and we can have a very transparent discussion and comprehensive discussion about how we fix the value chain and how we ultimately address this problem. The most favored nation coming out of the administration, all these other things are short-sighted, unsustainable measures that are not going to produce the result I do believe all of us on this committee want to achieve. It's not the what, but we've got a very wide range of differences on the how. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Speaking of Ed Martin, though, Ed Martin goes on Vince, and he says that they are looking at these pardons and investigating them, these blanket pardons like Anthony Fauci that go back 14 years.
We've never seen pardons of the scope, and it looks at least like something that you could be corrupt. When Bill Clinton pardoned Mark Rich, and turns out that Mark Rich had paid a boatload of money to one of Clinton's friends, lawyers, that's not corrupt, it's not criminal, because the plenary power of the pardon. But in the case of Joe Biden and his pardons, they were so specific, back 14 years, covering everything you've ever done. I mean, and when I say specific, they were broad, but they had time stuff on them. It was and that least leads to questions, because the plenary power is true, but the question is what was going on here, and I did get responses from some of them, and those things are ongoing.
Ongoing investigations about whether Joe Biden's pardon of the J6 committee, people like Adam Schiff, his son, also you've got Anthony Fauci, 14 years. It's just insane. All right, so we're running out of time here. A little follow-up on the Episcopal Church ending the partnership with the federal government over whites. They'll resettle brown people, but they will not resettle white people. Here is the Episcopal Church bishop who goes by the name of Sean Rowe explaining their decision that allowing white people from South Africa to come here was a bridge too far for this church.
We can't be ourselves in the Episcopal Church and take the step of resettling white Afrikaners from South Africa.
We can't be ourselves and take the step of resettling white Afrikaners from South Africa. Ugh, gross.
Our church has a long commitment to racial justice and reconciliation.
And bringing white people over here isn't about racial justice and reconciliation?
And we have historic ties with the Anglican Church of South Africa. Desmond Tutu is a part of, been a partner in this work for us. So we're just not able to take this step. It's not in line with anything that we're about.
Not in line with anything. We're just not able to take this step. It's absolutely insane. But people are saying that they don't really trust the Episcopal Church's resettlement goals anyway, that they are essentially glorified. Some people say that they're essentially, glorified human traffickers. There's those, when you do partner with the government, at least back, I think, with under the Biden administration, the Lutheran charities, the Catholic charities, they're not allowed to proselytize, right? You can't actually preach to them and talk about their sin. Not that the Episcopal Church would do that anyway. But they have to be separate. You have to keep those two things separate, which is ridiculous. Matt Walsh says, remember, folks, white South Africans don't belong in South Africa even after 400 years. White Americans are invaders in America even after 500 years. But the third world illegal migrant who got here last Tuesday is just as American as anyone else, and if you call him an invader, you're a racist. That's very well said. Also, this was big. We have Christian apologist Wesley Huff goes on the Flagrant podcast with Andrew Schultz and preaches the gospel. Listen to this.
Christianity is the fittest stepping down and sacrificing himself for the survival of the weakest. And that changes things in that mercy and justice are not pitted against each other. It's not justice at the expense of mercy. It's not mercy at the expense of justice. They're actually accomplished together in the act of the cross, where the self-volunteering of Jesus going to the cross, right? He says, no one takes my life from me. I give it of my own accord.
This is why forgiveness is an accomplishable goal, even for the most heinous act, because God has already taken on the punishment for that heinous act that person committed.
Well, forgiveness is costly, right? Like there's always a cost to forgiveness somewhere. And so
I'm just saying in general, that perceived lack of justice doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yes, this person killed somebody. Yeah, Jesus died on the cross for that very thing that person did. Yeah. It's not this person killed somebody. All right, how are we going to reconcile this? Do we give him 20 lashes? What is the thing for this act?
Right.
And who gets to decide that? It's already been decided. Right. So now we can go forgive.
It's not a points-based system either, which also gets hairy with so Islam has this concept within the Quran of the scales.
Okay.
Right? So you do bad things, you just try to outweigh them with your good things. Mm-hmm. There's a weird subjectivity to that.
Right, because who decides,
And actually Isaiah says that our righteous acts are like filthy rags. And the term there, it's debated, but could actually mean something like menstrual rags. Like they're not just dirty and gross, and it's like ritually impure with stuff you don't want to get near. And so it's like, look, God, look at all the good things I'm doing. And he's like, you don't understand, compared to my holiness, how like far that measures up. And so once again, God doesn't need to do any of this. God doesn't need to create. God doesn't need to forgive. God doesn't need to give mercy or justice. But the fact that he does, and then calls us all into that, to turn away. So the word repentance in Greek, metanoite, actually means to change one's mind and actions and attitudes. Like it's less of a, just don't do it anymore. It's more of like metanoia, change your brain. Like change it entirely. Your thought patterns start. It's what I talked about before with the 10 Commandments. Like, you're seeing it as a command, and God is saying, no, it's a promise. You don't need to steal. You don't need to murder. You don't need to lie. You don't need to. Those are promises that God makes to you because of who you are through what he can do.
And then if you don't change, you said you either become Adam or you become Christ, right?
Well, so it's like when you stand before the judgment throne, you're either going to take the penalty you deserve, or you're going to be covered in the righteousness of Christ, and that penalty is on him.
We live in incredible times, as, very popular secular podcasts like this, or Rogan and others, Tucker Carlson, are not afraid to talk about Christianity and its truth claims. So praise the Lord for that. I listened to most of it. Theologically, I don't think I line up exactly with Wes Huff. Just listening to there's I guess I would say, because I don't know exactly, but there were some things he was trying to answer some of their tough questions, and I would have answered them a little different. Let me just put it that way. But he did a good job. He did a great job. He certainly got a command of the facts when it comes to the textual authenticity of ancient documents. He's like second to none, and really, really interesting to listen to. But yeah, it's praise the Lord. That's all the time that I have for this edition of the Millstone Report. I know that all of you out there, well, let me just say thank you again for watching. And follow me on X at Real Paul Harrell. Follow X America News on X as well at X America News. You can also go to xamericanews.com, sign up for their newsletter. We really very much would appreciate it. And I also want to ask you to please, if you buy CBD, I want you to consider getting your CBD from curable.com. Promo code Paul20 will save you 20%. That's KURIBL.com. Promo code Paul20 saves you 20%. CBD is incredible at fighting inflammation, both externally with your muscles and internally. And the folks at Curable, I mean, you're not going to find the power of CBD in terms of the milligram dosage on some of these for the price that you pay. You're not going to find it anywhere else. And also, they don't use the harmful chemicals and pesticides and everything else. So I want you to check that out right now. Curable.com. Use promo code Paul20, KURIBL, Paul20. And also, as always, just do your own research. And if you've never taken CBD before, I would love for you guys to go to curable.com and just read up on what it can do for your body, because it is it's amazing. And it's natural. It's grown. It's not like ibuprofen and all these other NSAIDs that have long-term side effects. God bless everybody out there watching. Unless I'm providentially hindered, I'll be back here tomorrow wishing you a happy Thursday. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. God bless.
The very foundation of the Christian faith is based